If I had to pick one thing that I get asked the most about, maybe it's the thing we get asked the most about as a couple, it is how do we handle kids and technology?
Ooh.
Definitely a hot topic. Definitely have plenty of opinions.
You may not like all of them.
But I think it'll be helpful. It's a conversation that every parent has to be having. So
Let's do it.
let's do it.
Welcome to the Family Goals Podcast. We're Graham and Shay Cochran, and we believe that your family can do things differently. The payoffs are worth it, and the little things can have a huge impact.
This is going to be a quick and dirty episode talking about how we have handled tech with our kids. We haven't done everything right. We aren't doing everything right now, but there are certain things that we have seen pay off. There are also things we would do differently now that we're moving on to the second child entering the age of technology. So anyway, hopefully this will be helpful. There'll be some specific, tangible takeaways, and then you can, take it or leave it, do your own thing. We'll see who creates the best kids in the end. Just kidding.
She just threw that in there. I mean, yeah, just the thought here being right, like with every episode where we do something like this, food for thought, decide, but decide.
Like, yeah, we're not saying that we do it the best way. We're just showing you how we do it.
But again, most people haven't decided. They're just winging it.
Yeah, and or doing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, or like last week we talked about like parenting with little kids and you're so freaking tired. When you're so exhausted, you abdicate your decision making to whatever's easier or whatever else is doing. That doesn't lead to good parenting. That's just like, let's hope this works. So I just want you to be intentional.
Yep.
So come up with your own tech rules, but we'll just kind of give you some thoughts on kids and tech today.
Yeah. All right. So one of those is that we try to keep technology in public spaces. So by technology, I'm including television, iPad, phone, laptop, anything with a screen, basically.
VR goggles.
All of that stuff. Okay, all of it. We just try to keep it in public spaces. This is for a lot of reasons. One practical application was, for example, Chloe doing homework on a laptop. We found that when she was doing her homework on a laptop in another room, it would take far longer for her to do her homework, fancy that, than if she had to be at the dining room table with the screen facing where we could see it. Miraculously, she was far more focused. I mean, kids these days, they're trying to get on. So much of their school is online now, but they're also having to deal with the pop-up ads. And they don't have necessarily the discernment that we have to be like, I'm not going to look at that thing. So that was something that we saw happening with Chloe is just she's getting fed all these ads for things that she likes on her laptop while she's trying to do a research look at research articles for U.S. history. And it just was downhill. Also, obviously, there's the concerns with pornography and just the things that our kids are exposed to with the internet that we wanted to keep. If we can keep screens being used in public spaces where mom and dad are walking by, it just is a little bit helpful. I know that for some parents, this is a little bit challenging because maybe you live in a small space and it just doesn't, it's a lot of you cramped into a little home. And you're like, if I can just send them to their rooms with an iPad, I'm going to get some free time. And I get that. And I would just encourage you, like, maybe just be thoughtful about how you're navigating it. We don't let our kids use technology in their bedrooms. But you have to decide for your family, and I get it. And maybe you can just like, maybe it's that they keep the door open or something like that. There's ways to navigate it. But for us, we've just decided that technology is pretty much always used in public spaces. Even with phones, Chloe's phone turns off at night, so she's not using it in her bedroom at night or anything like that.
Get to the phone in a second.
We'll get to the phone.
Depending on like your age listening to this, like, we're millennials, we're like older millennials, but we didn't have iPads or even really a lot of laptops and no cell phones or like smartphones back in the day. But the technology that we could have had and some of my friends had were TVs in the bedroom. Yeah. And like I remember even growing up when we got married, we're like, we are not going to have a TV even in our bedroom.
Yeah, we don't
as
even
a
have one in our bedroom
because we don't.
That's an unpopular opinion on that.
It is an unpopular opinion, but like
it's just what we do.
But that was when I thought of like technology in the bedroom. It was just a TV. But like now I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to think about all the technology they can bring into the bedroom. So I thought I was proud of myself that we don't have TVs in our bedroom, and then like you can just bring your iPad in the bedroom. Yeah. Like, what's the difference? So yeah, it's just you decide what you want, but I think having the public space as a rule just keeps us focused on the right stuff on the technology, and it minimizes how much technology we're using. And again, if technology is powerful and wonderful, and we run businesses based off of the internet and technology, But the worst thing about it there's a lot of worse things, but one of the worst things about it for families is it divides. Like technology promises connection, but it does the opposite. It actually divides.
Well, even just think about morning cartoons. If every kid in your house has a different television in their own room, then they're all allowed to watch whatever they want to watch. So they don't have to compromise. They don't have to learn to work together. They don't have to learn to agree or take turns. Okay, we'll watch the show you want to watch, and then we'll watch the show you want to watch. So,
or even get to share a show where now we have something we can talk about. Remember that episode we watched together?
Right.
No, because we don't watch together because I'm in my VR goggles and you're in your VR goggles.
In close proximity and have to share the cereal, the Cheerios in the bowl or whatever it is. Like, there's layers to these decisions. Like, we were just like, you know what? I think we could just say no to TVs in their bedrooms, and then they're going to be forced to do this together. Anyway, we won't keep going on that, but that's tech and public spaces.
Tech and public spaces,
Yep.
The second kind of rule we have with kids and tech is that the kids don't have their own iPads. Now, okay, let me clarify. When they were younger, we got the kids Amazon Fire tablets.
Like the crappiest, least sophisticated, dorkiest tablets.
And there was a reason. It was a reason.
There was a reason.
It used to be called Amazon created the Kindle, the first most popular e-reader, and then they had like the Kindle Fire, and
the wannabe iPad.
Yeah, and now it's just the Amazon Fire tablet, and it's a crappy tablet, and we've got tons.
Sorry,
of them.
Amazon.
Yeah, I've given them plenty of my money for their crappy tablets. They're good for reading books, but one of the things they were really good for when they were younger was there was like this kid curated content, like very limited. They couldn't just access the whole world on it. And it was a cheap way to like let them play a couple games, watch a couple things. And we bought one of those, and then eventually they had their own, and we mostly used them on road trips. More on that in a second. But to this day, an actual like tablet, true tablet, like an iPad or whatever, where there's browsers and all the apps, they don't own their own tablet.
No, we have one.
We have one iPad for pretty much for the family. Now, they use it, and we'll talk about some of the things they use it for in a second. But like they have to ask, Dad, can I use your iPad?
Yeah. So we know they're on it. They can't just come home, grab their iPad, head up to their room, or head into a corner,
exactly,
and get on YouTube, which they would do.
They would do
endlessly if we let them.
And maybe this is semantics because they probably use the iPad more than I do. But to me, there's something about like they have to ask me or you, can I use the iPad?
Which means we can limit the amount of time. Yeah.
And now, to your point, we're aware of it, and they're mentally thinking it's mom and dad's. I have to ask, which just changes it as opposed to like it's mine. I can do whatever I want on it. So that's just a personal decision we made. And even like on a road trip, which we'll talk about in a second, they bring my iPad or Shay's tablet or whatever. Yeah. It's still mommy and daddy's.
Yep. Yeah, they just don't. We didn't, as when they were young kids, say like, "Oh, here's yours, and here's yours, and here's the indestructible casing, and you can watch kid YouTube endlessly," or things like that.
Again, it's not a popular opinion, and we're not, again, no judgment if that's what you do, but you are free to like change your mind if like just provoke some thinking of like, okay, well, why
they don't have to have.
They don't have to have one.
You can decide if you want them to, but they don't have to just because everybody else does.
Yes. Yeah.
We really should have created a podcast where we shared much more popular opinions. Then maybe we
would be more popular.
Maybe we'd be more popular.
Good thing we don't care about being popular. We care about helping.
On that note of being
Let's keep it going.
Opinions, we're going to keep it going. So third thing that we do in our house is that we didn't let any of our kids have, and so this would only apply to our oldest, Chloe. We did not let Chloe get a phone until she was 13 years old. So she was 8th grade. So 8th grade was going to be the start. And there was a lot of caveats, and we'll slow down here because I think this is really where a lot of people have questions. So, and we'll tell you what we did, and then we'll tell you what we're going to do different with Vera. So we are going to do things a little bit different. With Chloe, she got first a Gizmo watch, which worked horribly and was super frustrating. But when she was first asking,
which was like in 4th or 5th grade, she was asking for a phone.
She'd go to a friend's house, and we're like, okay, like we get it. We'll let you have a Gizmo watch so that you could technically send us a message or make a call if you needed to. This is when she was just first starting to kind of go over to friends' houses by herself.
Gizmo watch is a crappy product that Verizon Wireless
please just improve the product
that somehow allows you to text and talk. It sounds great in theory, like
it only
Apple
works
Watch,
50% of the time.
but it was horrible.
Maybe it's better now.
Maybe.
This is years ago.
Yeah.
This is a long time ago.
Anyway.
This is at least 5 years ago. Anyway, so Gizmo Watch. And then she was like, this sucks and it isn't working and isn't helpful. And so she wanted a phone. And we went back and forth for a long time. No. And then finally when she was in 8th grade, and that was around the time that she was starting to go to practice by herself, and just instances where we were like, there are situations where it would be helpful if she could call us if she wasn't safe, didn't feel safe, or if there was something going on, or that we could let her know, hey, we're running 10 minutes late to pick you up. Now, our parents ran late, and it was fine. How did we survive, Shay? And what's interesting is I think that a lot of the reason why kids have parents, goes in a whole nother.
Just go.
I'm sorry. Okay, a lot of reasons why parents are letting their kids have phones really young is because of their own fear and anxiety around the safety of their kids. And this has to do with the internet and what we are absorbing, and the news and the proliferation of all of these horrible, traumatic stories that, the school shootings, the things that we're just bombarded with that make us feel like this is happening every day, everywhere, and our kids aren't safe, and that somehow if they have a phone, we're going to be able to keep them more safe. And so a lot of parents are giving their kids technology way too young so that the adults feel safe. I'm going to stop because that's not the point of this episode, but it's very, very real. But I think it's the child. We're trying to pacify our own anxiety in a way that's actually detrimental to the child.
Yeah, this isn't the purpose of the episode, but there's interesting data coming out on just how harmful cell phone access is to younger kids. So it's like, are we really helping our kids?
Yeah.
Maybe making us feel safer, but
yeah. Now, there's a great workaround. So, I know that took a deep plummet, but there's a great workaround that gets into what Chloe was given when she got into 8th grade. So, when she was getting into 8th grade, she was given an iPhone, an old, like 10th generation iPhone of ours. She was not given a new iPhone.
We did not buy her a phone.
We did not buy her a phone. But so she was given an iPhone because she wanted to be the same as her friends. We gave her the option of well, you can get this, whatever it was, knockoff that only took photos and texts and phone calls.
Brand power. She's like, no, I want an Apple.
She was like, I'd rather have nothing.
I was like, really?
If I can't have a phone, because all of her friends had iPhones. So it was like she wanted nothing or an iPhone. So anyway, we got to that point where we were like, okay, we will give you an old hand-me-down iPhone, but it is not going to have internet on it. Yep. You are not going to have any apps unless we've approved the app. And you're only really going to be able to take photos, make phone calls, and text, and listen to music. Those were the 4 things that she could do. So when you hear me say parents are giving their kids phones because they feel unsafe, they have anxiety that they have not dealt with, and so they're giving their kids phones. The workaround is they can have a phone. They could be accessible or be able to call you. And perhaps given the situation that your family's circumstances, maybe they are oftentimes out of your care or somewhere where they really would need to get in touch with you. It is possible to give your kids a phone without giving them the internet, without giving them social media. It's even all possible with an iPhone. Now, we had to do a lot of work to figure out how to do that. You spent a lot of time on YouTube and in the how-tos of how to go in and turn all of these things off in your iPhone, but it was possible.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. They don't talk about it enough, but there are a lot of great parental controls on the Apple iPhone, and I'm sure it's the same with certain Android devices as well, where it's not an either or. So to Shay's point, once I realized, oh man, I can give her an iPhone and I can turn off Safari, so there's no web browser. She can't even
literally no web browser. Her friends would send her something like a link, and she
can't open it because there's no web browser. You can have it all set up where if she wants an app, it doesn't download. It sends a notification
permission
to me.
Request,
hey, Chloe's asking to download this app. Do you approve it or deny it? And I can take a look at what the app is in the App Store. That's powerful. And then the screen time can limit. Oh, this is really powerful. It can limit how many hours per day she can use her phone, period. We set it at 2 hours, period. So if she spent all day on it in the morning, it shuts off. You can also limit how many hours or minutes per app or type of apps, like any type of social app or video app only gets 20 minutes or whatever. So you could pinpoint an app if there's a problem or an addiction to a certain app. It's all customizable.
In the iPhone.
In the iPhone. And then on top of that, there's something called downtime, which is you set the time at night that the phone just shuts off no matter how many minutes she has left.
Doesn't matter what you're in the middle of.
So for us, like for her as a teenager, she's almost 15, it's 9 o'clock. So she can be in the middle of a phone call, a game, 9 o'clock, boom.
She knows it's happening.
And she knows it's happening. And
she can request additional minutes. So she's like going to be out at a friend's house later. But she'd have to request from us, hey, I'm going to, practice is going to run late, or we're coming home from the game or whatever. Can you please extend my screen time? And we can do that. But the point is, it's not just automatic that she gets unlimited screen time, because we don't want her on technology late at night when she needs to be sleeping. We want her body to be able to just physically wind down without looking at blue light, looking at a screen. We want her to be able to emotionally wind down from
I think
the day.
adults need screen time
adults
limitations.
Freaking need screen time.
So like certainly our kids do, right? So the powerful thing here is cell phones, especially, you could even give them a flip phone too. Like if you really need them to be able to call and text.
The thing is like they don't, you can't.
But you know what I'm saying? Like
the thing we ran into is like, it's humiliating to them.
I know.
So,
anyway. I'm not oblivious, but I'm just saying it's a false dichotomy. It's a false argument of my kid has nothing or they have to have the latest iPhone with everything. It's like, says who? Like there's a lot of in between. So it's like training wheels. You can pick. And so we told Chloe this, look, she was one of the last kids at age 13 in her class to get a phone.
If not the actual
She might have been the last. And she was, embarrassed about it. But we said, look, okay, we will give you a phone.
Yeah.
But it's going to be like the rope metaphor. I'm going to give you a little bit of length on the rope and then see how you do. And then I'll let you out a little bit further on the rope if you do well. And if you don't do well, we'll pull you right back in and give you less slack on the rope. So
we're going to trust you until we have reason not to trust you.
And so there's different, that's the cool thing about the settings is you can set up, okay, after a year, when she turned 14, she's like, Dad, I really need the web browser on my phone. I can't
Our teachers are giving us things.
There's a QR code, and even though I have a camera app, I can't open the link because I don't have, I'm like, oh, this is so stupid. Why does the school have to, the teachers are like, pull out your phones, kids. I'm like, we're all losing. So anyway, I can't fight the world that I live in. And so we said, okay, fine, we'll turn on Safari, we'll turn on the web browser. But even then, there's parental controls like no adult sites or whatever, and nothing's 100% perfect, but it's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And then now that we've turned on the Safari browser, we have to do phone checks, and we don't even do this as regularly as we should.
This is something we don't do very well.
But like periodically, it's like, dude, grab Chloe's phone. What has she been searching on Safari? What websites has she been on? Like that's our responsibility.
It's not her thing. It's not her. It's ours. It's us extending something to her.
Yeah.
But we are still in control of it, and we still have the right at any time to take her phone, pick it up, look through her text messages, look through her search history, things like that. And she knows that. We don't do a very good job about that. And part of that is, just we trust her character. That's probably dangerous.
Yeah, we probably trust her too much. Yeah. But because go ahead.
I've also heard that Bark is a really great app that you can install that monitors text messages and things like that. We haven't installed that. I think that would be awesome. That especially has some triggers that will look out for any kind of bullying that's happening, anything like that.
Yeah, it even reads like text messages, and it can read things that they think might be like suicidal tendencies. Like it's really actually powerful to like alert the parents, like, hey, you might want to check in on your kid. Which is sad that that
Bark,
happened.
B-A-R-K.
Yeah, Bark is pretty powerful. So just don't be overwhelmed. Don't think about this too long, but just know there's some pretty simple, powerful tools to decide what the training wheels are on your kid. I will say the one thing we haven't said yes to, and we probably won't until they're 18, is social media.
Yeah.
And by won't till they're 18, meaning like when you're 18, like I can't tell you you're going to be off on your own. You're legally an adult, but we're going to probably dissuade them from like having a social media account. There's just, and the Wall Street Journal article that came out recently, and I shared one of the reels about it. One of the co-authors of the article basically said they don't recommend smartphones until high school. This is like just mainstream secular press, no smartphones until high school, no social media till 16 is what they said. And there's some other, like they did all this study, all this data, and the co-authors came up with like 4 rules for parents of smartphones based off of mental health and whatever. But when it comes to social media, like Chloe doesn't have a social media account. There's no Instagram. There's no Facebook.
And you also need to be checking that stuff too, because I also have heard plenty of stories where they don't think their kids have these apps And that's why like the app permission, we know exactly what apps she has on her phone because we can check, and also she'd have to request it anyway. So we can know exactly what apps they have.
Yep. And we can delete them. It's pretty powerful how the iPhone can control the other iPhones. But so that's a decision we've made.
And this is like the meanest way of saying this, but we just love her too much to give her social media.
Yeah.
After all the statistics and all that's coming out relating to depression and suicide and loneliness in teens, and we know the struggles, like the comparison and the jealousy and the discontentment. It's like there's just so much, and they're not developmentally ready for that stuff, and they lack the self-control. And we certainly want them to learn self-control around those things in our house. So that's where, maybe she does end up getting social media before she leaves the house so that she's not learning to navigate it outside of the house. Like, we're very for using them getting to learn these lessons with us there to coach them, but we don't know when that will be, if that will be. Social media just has so many inherent risks. Now, the only exception we've made there is she's allowed to be on Be Real. I think there's one other social app that we're considering for her because it's like not endless access to, anyone's posts about anything. They're kind of closed. You're just connected to your friends.
The way social media used to be. Yeah.
It's like a closed loop. So they're not just seeing the search or the home discovery page with all the garbage on there. So that was cell phone related things, the way that we did it with her.
So talk about Vera, though.
Yeah,
what are we going to do with Vera?
Hey, I hope that you're loving this episode. But listen, what we really want to do is save you from one more boring night of tech gather time spent scrolling your phone side by side. We have a better idea. Okay, we've created 5 absolutely foolproof conversation prompts to help you connect with your spouse today.
Yeah, these are like literally fill in the blank easy. Simple questions, nothing heavy, nothing too serious. These are light and fun to do exactly what they say to help you connect. So to get these free conversation prompts, just go to familygoalspodcast.com/connect. They're free, they're fun, use them today. Now, back to the episode.
One of the most helpful things I've heard recently, and it was actually, praise the Lord, it was at the kids' school, and it was one of the principals was giving a chapel, and he said from his perspective, with everything that he's seen, he just doesn't think that kids should be. He's like, listen, I hear the stories because I'm a principal, so I know what's going on. I probably know more of what your kids are doing with their phone than you do. And with everything that I see, I am begging you to delay when you give your kids a phone into their teen years and to not allow them to be on social media. But what he said that I thought was so helpful was that just because you did it with one kid does not mean you have to do the same thing with the other kid. And for whatever reason, even though I know that was just such a comforting, like, light bulb moment.
Like permission.
It was just permission. You don't have to make it fair. You are the parent. You are in charge. So you are allowed to say, this worked for that kid and it doesn't work for this kid.
Yeah.
So
because kids are different.
Kids are different. Their needs are different. Their bent is different. Their personality is different. Their predisposition is different. Their struggles are going to be different. It does not have to be fair.
You might even change your mind,
loving
too.
each of them well.
Yeah.
As individuals, loving each of them well. So with Vera, she doesn't know this yet. Hopefully she doesn't listen to the podcast.
Are you listening to this podcast, Vera? No, because she doesn't have any devices.
We probably will not give her a phone. I mean, I almost 99.9% chance we will not give her a phone in 8th grade. Because of her personality, because of her bent. And honestly, if I could go back and do it again, I would not have given Chloe
it was too
phone
early.
that early. I think it was too early. And what was so hard about it is she would go to a birthday party, for example, and all of her friends would be on phones.
Sitting on a sofa next to each other.
Sitting on a sofa at a birthday party. We'd go to pick them up. Every single girl, they're just in a circle on a phone, and they're just showing each other TikToks, and they're showing each other all this stuff that we really didn't want her to be seeing. Anyway, that's just a frustrating side note, but I've literally lost my place. What was I about to say? Vera. Oh, even with Chloe, if we could go back, Chloe's personality is one that generally, especially at that age, maybe not so much now at all, but at that age, she really would have wanted that social affirmation that social media would have provided. So we were like, nope, we don't want somebody else determining whether you feel beautiful or not beautiful or popular or not popular. So I think if we could go back with Chloe, we would have delayed it even a little bit farther. Although that, would have been crazy hard. But I'm still just glad we didn't put her on social media.
Oh, yeah.
But with Vera, we will hold off. And I think the reason why is because we did see inevitably how all of a sudden when Chloe got a phone, she's on her phone more, just communicating with her friends, even though she couldn't be on social media or on the internet.
Yeah, she texted a lot.
She was just texting a lot. And so you go from being like a family that's connected and talking to each other to tech together time, and everyone's looking down at their phones. And the moment we gave her a phone, that started to inch in. So I would have delayed it for that reason. But with Vera, we don't want the same thing. Like, we don't want the four of us. Chloe's way better at managing herself now.
Yeah, she's learned.
She's learned. And so with Vera, I think just based on her personality, we're going to wait. Even if it's one more year.
She's not even asked for a phone.
No, she has never asked for a phone. So that's
Chloe was asking for one since like 4th or 5th grade.
Birth.
Yeah. Came out the womb like, where's the phone?
Where's my phone?
Like, I don't even have an iPhone. But the sad reality, right, is like if your kids get into that middle school age where they have friends with phones, their friends want to text them, AKA give them mom's phone number, give them dad's phone number. You don't know how many like weird text threads Shay and I have been on over the years.
Yeah. When Chloe's friends got a phone, so 4th grade, let's say, and so Chloe, it would be my phone number in her friends group chat. Yeah. So that helped me to be able to always see what was going on. That was such a good decision. But also, I am not even exaggerating, about 300 plus texts in a 24 to 48 hour span of time.
Every day.
It was madness. Like, I definitely had to put it on Do Not Disturb and that kind of thing. But at least I could see everything that was being said everywhere. And then eventually with Vera, I was like, babe, you're taking this one. Because
I get all Vera's friends now.
There would be days, if I didn't check my phone or check the text, I'd be over the 1,000 texts mark because of the
what
kids.
happened?
And it's like nonsensical. It's not even complete sentences. It's like emojis.
TTYL.
And IDK and, WYD. It's like, kids don't even know how to communicate anymore. But this time you took it. You're the one on the threads. You're the one with your phone getting blown up. But at least you can see what's going on. You learn kids' personalities. It helps you to learn the personalities of their friends because you can see how they're communicating with each other and what they're sending. It was just great.
It's worth the crazy.
It's worth it. Okay, that was long there.
Yes, that was a big one. We need to talk about that. So anyway, for what it's worth, make your decisions, but hopefully that's helpful to somebody. The way we'll think about this with kids and tech, though, is we actually embrace tech because Shay and I use tech, but you can do two things with tech. You can either consume or you can create. Yep. And so most of us in the world are using tech to consume. We're just binging shows on Netflix. We're listening to podcasts, even if they're good. We're reading books. Like consuming is not a bad thing. Like I create content for people to consume, but you don't want to consume all day long. You want to use technology to create as well. And you want to teach your kids to be creators, even if they're not going to be a YouTuber or a podcaster. Let them use, we let them use technology and in a creative capacity.
As a tool.
Like Chloe, one of the earliest uses of tech for her was actually Google Docs, writing short stories. Mm-hmm. She would come up with little short stories when she would like walk in circles or scoot in the driveway or in the cul-de-sac. And then she'd say, Dad, can I write a short story? Yeah. So I would teach her a Google Doc and she would use...
My Google Drive is like full of these
Chloe's
sweet little stories that she used to write.
And then they like to film videos, like fake tutorials like Mommy and Daddy's YouTube videos. And so they would film themselves. Hey friends, today I'm going to teach you how to like make, glue or whatever, make slime and
or they'd make short video, like movies about a family trip or a funny day, or they would role play. They'd kind of create these little scenes and make these little mini movies with apps like Clips and
CapCut,
and
I'm actually fine with actually lots of screen time if they're creating, because it's a very different part of your brain. Yeah. And I don't care if it's paper and pen or a tablet. The technology is not the problem. It's like, what are we using it for? And so when they're creating, like Vera's getting into graphic design now. So she's like designing a logo for our Airbnb. She's doing all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah. Chloe's creating photo albums of our trips for Shay and like how to place the photos all day.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's not all day.
All day. Maybe not all day.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can create or you can consume, and we're fine with them creating.
Yeah, love that.
Final
caveat.
When it comes to kids and tech, the one exception in a weird way to almost all of this is when it comes to road trips.
Anything goes.
All bets are off. Unlimited screen time, kids.
Unlimited screen time.
I don't want to hear from you. I want to talk to your mom. I want peace and quiet. Put those headphones in.
All you parents that are like, we love family road trips. I mean, we just selfishly did not love family road trips. So the kids, literally, we will let them to this day download like 4 movies to watch, and they can just watch it straight, 4 straight. Now, listen, they're going to be super crabby and have super bad attitudes.
Consequences.
After that. So you got to be ready for that. But all bets are off on a road trip. So
yeah. So if you hear us like, oh my gosh, they only let them watch TV on Saturday mornings. Yeah, come to one of our road trips. They can do whatever they want. You want snacks? You want movies? You got it.
We just throw food in the back. Put your headphones on, kids, and then we get 8 hours of date day.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we're not perfect,
and there's exceptions to all of this. We're not robots, but it's like, what is we want those things to be exceptions rather than the rule.
Exactly. And we'll come back to something we've said a million times, because sometimes we'll get some flack on it when we like have a clip on Instagram and people judge what we say by a 90-second clip, which is the internet. Welcome to the internet. Do whatever you want.
At the end of the day, you get to decide.
If you like, the tagline of our show is intentional. Like, your family can do things differently. So if you don't like the results you're getting, if you don't like the way things are going, or if you're just unsure of what to do, you get to decide. And all we would say is sit down together as a couple, maybe even as a family if your kids are older, and have these conversations. And even if you've done something one way for 10 years, you can say, you know what?
One kid.
Yeah. The first half of raising kids, you can say, you know what? We've done it this way. Think about how powerful this can be for your kids if they're like of that age. Hey, kids, mommy, daddy used to say it was okay for us to do this, for us, there's this, but we've made a decision. We're going to actually change things up. And here's why. We don't know if it's the best, but we think based off of this article we read and this study and what we're seeing, we want something different for a family. So we're actually going to turn off the TVs or limit the screen or whatever you decide to do. How powerful, even though they will hate it at first.
And they will.
No one likes change, especially if you're taking away our devices. But like, how powerful though in their later years to be like, wow, mom and dad like straight made a decision. That's gutsy. Yeah. They decided that they wanted something different for their family, including us, and they did it. Talk about modeling. Like, that's how you parent. Like, we didn't have it right. We actually think we made some mistakes. We're going to make a change. Yeah. That's next level game-changing parenting. And I think they'll respect it more than you realize, especially once they become adults. Yeah. I bet they would do the same thing with their kids because they saw their parents put a stake in the ground and say, you know what? This is what our family's going to do. And here's why.
Yeah, it's good. All right. What's one thing you're grateful for?
You know what I'm grateful for? We were looking at y'all's reviews of this show on Apple Podcasts, and some of the kindest, most encouraging feedback we've seen about this show. So it helps us know that you're listening or you're watching, and that is making a difference. And so, man, we eat up that feedback because we're just talking to a camera and a microphone by ourselves talking to ourselves over here. But it feels so good to know that like this is actually helping somebody out there. So I'm grateful for your feedback.
I'll add to that. If there's a topic that you really want us to cover or a question you really want us to answer, it'd be so helpful. Find us on Instagram, DM us that question, or comment on YouTube, but we're not always there. So
I'll see it.
You can comment. I will not see it.
Shay doesn't know what YouTube is.
Reach out. Find a way to reach out. We want this to be helpful. So any feedback like that, we love.
And what are you grateful for?
I am grateful that we get to go out on a date night tonight. Yeah. I know we said that. We already said that. But we get a surprise, awesome bonus date night tonight. So it's been a while. It's been such a busy
Girl, you've been traveling.
I know. It's my fault.
You've been traveling more than me.
I know. Well.
Living your best life out there.
Living my best life. But it has not been easy for us to have time alone to have a conversation. So this is actually the closest thing we've had to a date in a while.
I'm Graham.
Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm Shay.
Well, anything else? I didn't want to cut off your...
No, that's it. I'm good. So grateful for date night.
Heck yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We'll see you on another episode real soon.
Bye.